a little bit of a sad, depending on how you want to talk about it, Purple Rain podcast. Yes, welcome back to episode 309 of the Purple Rain podcast. Yes, it's kind of poetic that it is the ninth of this, season, I think you want to call it, the Justin Tucker episode. If that's what we want to talk about, or we can go the Steve McNair route of the Purple Rain podcast. Yeah, thank you all for coming through this episode. A lot to talk about, a whole lot. I mean, some stuff happened I wasn't expecting to talk about for maybe another month or so. But first and foremost, you can follow us on Instagram at the Purple Rain Podcast. Follow this guy right here on Instagram or on X at Sutton Def. Me, Instagram simply as10.prod, X simply as10. The most importantly, our sponsor, Manscaped. Go on there, use code PRP for 20% off your whole order and free international shipping. The best deal on the interwebs. But Sutton, a lot of news has come out. A lot. But how are we feeling? How are we doing? What, 2 weeks removed from the draft now? Settling in with the roster. Could make another move or two,
Yes.
but how are we feeling?
You know, feeling good at the moment, man. The draft class to me has only aged with fine wine as I think about it a little bit more as the weeks go on. I'm very, very excited for the season. I will say that. First of all, I want to give a big shout out to everybody who's watching this episode 9 of PRP Live. I know we've been gone for a little bit of while, but it's honestly my fault. I've got a lot of stuff going on right now. I've got a lot of visitors coming by, so I've been trying to be, the king of hospitality and things like that. And I was like, you know what? I'm gonna give the pod, just a little break. But then I felt bad. I felt bad the other day. I was like, what? Like all the news has come out. Pickens has gotten traded to the Cowboys. He's out of the AFC North. Tucker's been released by the Ravens. There's other things going on. Gronk talked about how he was almost a Raven. Like there's been some big stuff going on. Rookies are trying to get Hall of Fame jury members off the break. I made a video about that, but Alex, I want to get your take on it later in the show. But I'm glad to be back live. I just want to say that, and I want to thank each and every guys who rock out with us, even when we do take our little breaks in the off season and whatnot. It happens, you know what I'm saying, like vacations here and there. Like I said, as you guys know, I just moved to Texas not too long ago, so I've got a bunch of friends and family visiting me, and I've been trying to take some time off for them to kind of, entertain them and be with them, be with them family. So hopefully, you guys forgive me. Again, it's not Alex's fault whatsoever that we haven't been live in a week. It is my fault. It is my fault. So I just want to put that out there. But listen, like my guy Alex said, we do have a lot of good stuff to get to on this episode 309 of PRP. First of all, as you guys know, he just pointed it out. Justin Tucker, number 9, been with the Ravens for almost a decade and a half, right? He's gone. He's gone. To get into that, I want to read the statement for you guys because I'm sure Alex has his thoughts on it as he always has throughout this whole situation, and so have I. But I want to first give it to you guys. Make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel as well. We got about 20 people watching live right now. If you are on X, shout out to you. We appreciate our X viewers. It's actually probably one of our biggest followings nowadays on X. So shout out to the X people over there. And then shout out to everybody watching on YouTube. If you are watching on YouTube, make sure you like the video. If you are new and you just happen to stumble across this channel, first of all, hello. My name is Sutton Def. That is my co-host at Simply AS10. I heard it. Highlight God. And we are the Purple Rain Podcast. So maybe consider subscribing after you watch this episode because I don't want you to give out. I don't want you to get a free sub. You know what I'm saying? Don't give out a free sub. Just stay here, watch, listen, and if you like us, maybe hit that subscribe button. I want genuine subs. That's what we want here at RP. But let me bring up who's here in the live chat because that's what we do here. We got our guy Dre in the house that says, "What's going on, Purple Rain gang? What's up, Dre? Appreciate you coming through, man. That is a true Purple Rain pioneer." We got E Money in the house. Has got to get me a Tyler Loop jersey. Lamar will
Ooh,
be on Drewski show tonight. Let's go Raven. I was
I'll
at
be
the
watching.
club the other week and I saw Drewski at the club,
Bro,
a club in
no, no, no,
Houston.
no, no. Sutton, I need to tell you something. Like, I saw
Yeah.
that, and I have this still in my camera roll because, I'll see stuff and, I just laugh at it, and I just need to let you know. that I have it literally screenshotted in my camera roll right there because of how funny. Like it's him looking at his phone, and I'm like, I'm like,
Yeah.
there's no way Sutton is right there. And there's I had to screenshot it. I just didn't believe it. I'm like, yeah, that
Bro,
was
it
like
was like literally
side
like a
quest.
real life skit. Literally a side quest. Like it looked like a
Why
skit
does he
like when
have
you're at
on
a club not
iPad?
having fun. Exactly. Like, bro. It was hilarious. It was a lot of fun. I mean, obviously Drewski's not like a stand-up comedian or anything. Like he's a skit comedian and he's an influencer. So he has these club appearances, but he doesn't do anything. He just kind of shows up and he's just like himself, and like that's honestly like the best gig to have. Can you imagine just like getting paid to show up somewhere and like all you have to do is just show up? You don't have to perform. You don't have to do anything. Be seen. And like so that's cool for Drewski. He actually dropped a very funny video the very next day. So shout out to him. I thought that whole experience was kind of cool. But shout out to E-Money for coming through. Appreciate that. Taquan is in the house as well. Says, what's up, Rain Gang, Sutton, and
Oh,
Alex? What's going on, Taquan? That's another Purple Rain pioneer himself in the flesh. So we got Sam 4002
hi.
AFC5 says, yo, big up the guys. What's going on, Sam? Appreciate you for coming through. Thank you so much, brother. Killer Cam in the house says, hola, hola,
What's up?
and salute to you, Killer Cam. Salute to Killer Cam, man. Killer Cam is always, in the comment section of whether it be our regular videos, our shorts, things like that, always supporting. So big shout out to him. Okay, so about 6 minutes in to this episode, this kind of like reunion episode at this point of PRP 309. So Justin Tucker
Mm,
recently got released by the Baltimore Ravens earlier than expected, I might add. And I think that has a lot to do with, kind of like the whole story that's following him, that's been following him since, the offseason started. So let me just start off this by going ahead and reading the statement from Executive Vice President of the Ravens and General Manager Eric DaCosta. And I quote, sometimes football decisions are incredibly difficult, and this is one of those instances. Considering our current roster, we have made the tough decision to release Justin Tucker. Justin created many significant and unforgettable moments in Ravens history. His reliability, focus, drive, resilience, and extraordinary talent made him one of the league's best kickers for over a decade, which is true. We are grateful for Justin's many contributions while playing for the Ravens. We sincerely wish him and his family the very best in the next chapter of their lives. And I also want to end quote, but I also want to add to that the Ravens made it very clear that releasing Justin Tucker was a quote unquote football decision. Now, Alex, I want to come to you first on this one. And I already see your face on this one. I already see your face. So I know you're kind of raising an eyebrow on it. Wayne the Rock Johnson style. Shout out to him. But Alex, how did you feel when the Ravens not only released Justin Tucker, but they released that statement and also doubled down on the fact that this was a football move?
I was shocked at the timing. Um, the football move stuff really goes against. I mean, it's a blatant lie, and I will argue till I'm blue in the face why it's a blatant lie. After the bye week last year, the Eagles game, he didn't miss a kick. Whether it be extra point, whether it be field goal from 30, 40, or 50 yards, every single one of them went through the uprights. Not missed one single kick. Playoffs, big games coming down the end of the season. Football decision.
Yeah.
You got in this a 6 rounder, Tyler Loop. All right, there's no way you saw that much out of him in one practice. Yeah, he's better than Tucker. No, it's not true. We know why. They probably found some damning evidence. You know what? Get him out of here now before it comes out, and he's still on the team. It's like, oh, we found out, so we gotta let him go. It's like a Ray Rice part two. Unfortunately, um, it it does hurt because I think he was the last active player on that Super Bowl team on the team now, and he's
Yes.
gone. So it is a new era, and I'm just gonna accept that. But man, it's not a football decision because he could have went out there and still been reliable. If these situations never occurred, he would have been fine. So numbers are numbers. Didn't miss a single field goal after what week 14 last year or extra point. He still has not 60 yarder, but
Yes.
53 and under. I'm taking him.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. And the whole football decision thing, quote unquote, was very ingenuous to me as well. Mainly because, I mean, like you said, this is a guy who, after that Eagles game, did not miss a kick for the rest of the season. He really did get back on track. And I remember on this podcast giving him his props and giving him his credit for getting back on track. But I think the reason why the Ravens decided to take this route of, oh, it's a football decision, was to protect the Ravens. You know what I mean? Because if the Ravens had came out and said something like, "Oh yeah, we got rid of Justin Tucker because we're zero tolerance here in Baltimore, and we don't tolerate that type of behavior, things like that." If they would have came out and said that, I think there would have been a lot of legal implications that come along with it too, because the NFL I don't think has completely resolved the whole Justin Tucker case. They haven't finished the investigation. Now, on the flip side, what's fishy to me is that the Ravens decided to, because keep in mind, mind you, they designated this as post June 1 cap hit, right? What's today? Today is Thursday, May the 8th, right? So there's a little less than a month until we get to June 1. Why would they, 3 weeks earlier, designate Justin Tucker as a post June 1 release? Because they're going to get about $4 million in cap space for doing that. Why would they release the news so early? Why would they not wait until June 1st to actually announce that? You know, I think that the NFL got back to them. Maybe the investigation isn't all the way finished yet, but maybe the NFL got back to them and said, "Hey, one of these or three of these or maybe 6 or 10 of these 16 different accusers is right in what they're saying." I think that that is really what is at play here. I think that's what's really going on. Mind you, I mean, you keep in mind the NFL has been investigating this for months now at this point. So I know that they've found some sort of information from somebody. And I think that they went back to the Ravens with that information and say, "Hey, look, like this isn't looking good so far. We may not have talked to all 16. We may not have gotten something out of all 16, but so far what we've, gathered, it does not look good for your boy." And the Ravens said, "Okay, NFL, that's all we need to know. All right, we're going to go ahead and we're going to designate him as a post June 1 release so we can get our $4 million in cap space." That I think maybe, hopefully, I don't know what they're going to do. Maybe it'll be, I don't know if all the draft picks have signed yet.
Yep.
I don't think they have, but they have not, right?
I think so. Our first two, I think Starks and Green are left.
Got it, got it. Yeah, so I mean, they've still got more guys to sign, and then of course, whatever leftover cap space they'll use for a season pickup or something like that. But my point is, they designated him as a post June 1 cut, but they released early in May because they knew what was coming soon. I think there's some news maybe coming down the pipeline soon that we have not heard before. And this is another reason why Justin Tucker has been quiet about it, silent, tight lipped. He hasn't said anything about his release from the Ravens. He hasn't said, "Oh, thank you," to nothing. So I think that there's still some heavy stuff going on with Tucker right now, and that's how I feel about it. But Alex, what do you say to that? What do you think the real reason for them designating him for the post June 1 cut is? Do you agree with me, or are
Yeah,
you on the other
there
side?
has to be there has to be something. There, I mean, you don't just cut him in May with. I mean, you have preseason. We there's been times what we traded Sean Wade. He was a 6th round pick. I'm pretty sure. Went to Ohio State. We traded him to the Patriots after preseason. If Loop and Tucker were going, back and forth, and Tucker was looking good, we could have traded Loop for maybe a late round pick. The Ravens love their late round pick, so just releasing him now, like I said, there had to be something. Can't convince me otherwise, and I'm glad it's over with. Kind of the fact he's not on the team anymore. There's not like the back and forth, but it's now kind of focusing, what comes out. So that's kind of next. And if I was a gambling man, I bet you the Baltimore Banner will have the inside scoop and will be releasing that news. If it's anybody, if it's any source, I'm betting my money it's on them because they were the first ones on this case. I think months ago.
Yes, they were. They were. That is true. And like I said, I agree with that. And I also think that Stevens kind of looked at it like this, like, you cannot be more trouble than what you're valued. You know what I mean? Like, you're a kicker at the end of the day, right? Like, you're a kicker. So it's like we can't have you being the reason why there's a shitstorm in our locker room, why there's a media shitstorm in our locker room, right? Like, you come on the field, and yes, it's a very important position, and I do not want to take for granted how great Justin Tucker was football wise for the Ravens for what 13 some odd years, something like that, right? But at the same time, you are not a quarterback, right? You're not and this is why people kind of like didn't understand like the difference between the Justin Tucker and the whole Deshaun Watson thing. I think Justin Tucker will end up getting another job. You know, despite what may come out, we've seen before with Deshaun Watson, like if you cannot prove like with anything blatant. So I'm talking text messages, I'm talking videos, I'm talking phone calls, things like that. If you cannot prove any of that like hardcore, like cold hard facts, then like NFL teams will be like, okay, this is something that it will blow over in maybe a year or two, and we can have this guy on our team and still if he can still hit from 50 plus. Like that is what I think is going to happen here. But again, in short, the Ravens basically said like you're not worth you're not worth all the trouble you're bringing right now.
Yeah.
And I think that's true. But I don't want to. What I will say about that, I don't want to make that seem like I'm saying like sexual assault or anything like that is okay if you're quarterback as opposed to a kicker. I'm not saying that, but I think that at the same time, with the Ravens really focusing on the Chiefs and the Bills, beating them and trying to get to the Super Bowl, right? We just spent the last 2 seasons on the cusp of going to a Super Bowl, right? The Ravens have much bigger fish to fry than having a struggling Justin Tucker in their locker room, an older struggling Justin Tucker in their locker room, and he is the media darling. Kind of like an oxymoron there because he's no darling, but like he's the one everybody's focusing on. That's the distraction. Can't have that. Can't have that. So I understand why they got rid of him. I'm glad that they got rid of him. And Tyler Loop, let's talk about him a
Mm,
little bit, right?
talk about it.
He has been, like you said, 6th round pick. We saw him in the mini camp videos, the rookie mini camp videos. He looked good, hitting kicks. John Harbaugh actually said himself he loved to see Tyler Loop not only see him kick but hear him kick. And what that says to me is that okay, like John Harbaugh hasn't heard a young leg hit that ball in a minute, right? So like he loved to hear like this kid is how old is Tyler Loop? Fun fact, how old is he?
Ooh, let me look it up. He is. Oh, I don't know it. He's 23. There we go. 23 years old.
23. Okay, honestly, that's like perfect age right there. Not too young, but not even on the cusp of getting old for a kicker. You know, so like I think that John Harbaugh sees something in him, and I think that, of course, the writing was always on the wall when we drafted him. The writing was always on the wall for Tucker when we drafted Tyler Loop. But I like what we see from him. I've heard he's had some accuracy issues, but he has a huge leg. The accuracy, I think, he can develop that. Just like Lamar Jackson developed a more accurate arm later in his career. I think Tyler Loop can develop a more accurate leg. But as long as he's got that power, that's what you need. And honestly, you could probably, compare Tyler Loop better to a Josh Allen with Josh Allen's like throwing and things like that. But what are your thoughts on Tyler Loop before we get to the super chat donation?
The Ravens have an incredible eye talent when it comes to kickers. You can go down our history. We don't miss. I'm gonna ask you. Last year and the year before, who do you think was the kicker that kind of like introduced themselves to the NFL as a pretty damn good kicker? Can you just think of any that
Brandon Aubrey.
any others? I mean, I'll give you the next. If you don't get the next one, I can give it to you.
Uh, who's the next one?
Cameron Dicker from the
Mm,
Chargers.
yeah,
Um, he should be thankful for us because we picked him up. He played in our third preseason game. We let him do kickoffs, punts, hit 50 yarders. Now look at him now. Will Lutz, you can go on that. I mean, he was with us. Graham Gano, Hauschka had a long
yeah,
career after
yeah.
us. Cundiff, obviously he missed, but and then we get Tucker undrafted. So we're pretty good with kickers. It helped. What was his name? Oh, the guy who got beat up and we traded him for a 5th round pick, the kicker. Oh my gosh, his name's
Oh, was it Vedvik?
Kyer Vedvik. Correct, Kyer Vedvik. Even he was looking good, then he got beat up, and then but but we have really good eye talent. Loop, the leg is if you have a big leg, we can get that accuracy down. Tell you what, it's gonna be that first game, like a 2020 game. He comes out in the fourth quarter, 53 yarder. That's gonna be as welcome to the NFL moment. Can you bang that when the pressure's on you? And he'll be telling
Yeah,
when he does. This guy was ready for it. So I'm ready to see it and just hear it. Hearing a good kick on the ball, yeah, you'll know if it's going in or not. So I'm actually excited to see him kick.
And you know what's funny? I just got this thought in my head. You remember the whole special teams quote unquote wolf pack situation
Mm,
that was going
mm,
on?
mm.
That is completely no more now.
No more.
It's it's a brand new regime. From the kicker to the holder to the punter. It's a brand new regime. Like that's crazy. It's crazy. It is crazy. We do have a super chat donation. Actually, a
Yeah.
couple of them. We got this one from Asmodeus the Natos. What's going on? Asmodeus dropping the
What's up?
5 piece in the chat. We appreciate each other. Says this draft class will likely be one of the best ones. I also have a lot of faith in Tyler Loop. Yes. Right now, I will say a lot has to be for me. It's blind faith. We have no choice but to have faith in Tyler Loop right now because you know as much as I just sat here and said like the value of a kicker pales in comparison to the value of a quarterback, there are times where you literally have to put your entire Sunday, your entire week on the line for a kicker to make or miss a kick. That's how it is. So yeah, Tyler Loop. I hope that he can get one of those big ones. I'm thinking about the first AFC North matchup against, I don't know, the Bengals on the
Yeah.
road or the Steelers or Browns on the road or whatnot. No, can't make that 47-yard field goal to put us up 3 or 4 to really ice the game. You know what I mean? Something like that. So, yeah, big faith in Tyler Loop as well. But what do you have to say to Asmodeus here?
Yeah. I can go through, but I tell you what, I don't want to give him the classic Ravens wide receiver hype because he's a late round pick, but I'm looking forward to seeing LeJontay Wester uh kicking punt returns. I mean, guy just looks freaking
Mm,
faster than everybody else on the field. And I was reading through some Colorado fans that are saying like his 40 time is not how fast he is. Like that game speed is completely different to that 40 time. And I saw the one clip of him, just running routes. I'm really hoping that I'm not expecting him to have a big offensive impact, but if we can use him in special teams, and we don't have to rely on bringing in a guy like Deontay Hardy like we did last year, um, just give us some spark in that return game, and then maybe grow us like with a Tylen Dig, get some snaps on offense. But I'm just looking forward to our special teams being a lot better than it was last year and years prior. So as for the other, first round, second round picks, I know they'll be good, but man, I'm just looking at the third later round picks, fourth, fifth, sixth round. Hopefully, we got ones there.
yeah, you want Asmodeus got here another super chat donation, 5 piece, another 5 piece in the chat. Big shout out to Asmodeus. Alex, what is he talking about here?
I did not watch the Vault yesterday. I feel like I'm missing out, but he says, check out the Vault interview yesterday. Loop's coach said the holder was the problem with most misses. Jordan Stout, them holds better be on point this year because that was a big, big point of just discussion with the whole Tucker misses last year. How they were all going one way, or actually they were all going just one way, um, and they
Yeah.
were blaming on the holding. So I hope Stout has been taking some holding classes in the off season. But you mentioned the Wolfpack. I mean, Sam Cook is one of our coaches here, so I'm hoping he's showing him a thing or two about holding the damn pigskin when kicking the ball. So who knows? But I'll have to definitely check that out and hear what his coach said.
Yeah, man. And, just touching on the Wolfpack one more time and the whole Justin Tucker thing one more time. Like it's just such a shame to me. Like such a storybooked career. You know what I mean? Like from pulling us out of special teams hell from the Billy Cundiff miss in the AFC Championship game against the Patriots all those years ago to, kicking literally the longest field goal of all time, 66 yards against the Detroit Lions for the win. And everything in between the Saints miss and, all the Titans miss in the playoffs, all the highs, the lows with this guy, but mostly highs. Right? Like we had been spoiled for so long with Justin Tucker as our kicker. It's just such like a not even like a blemish. It's just sad. Like it's just terrible that such a great career has to you know have such a stain on it. You know what I mean? And like I will never understand certain men. I'm just gonna leave it at that. I'm not gonna understand certain men. I just won't. I'm not gonna act
Yeah,
like I will.
uh, you just went through all the highs and lows, like introducing yourself to the NFL on a very very cold day in double overtime against the Denver Broncos and Peyton Manning when we were by far the underdogs and they just blew us out 34-17 5, 6, 7 weeks prior to that. Him hitting that, you know, I- and then like the week year after that, 6 for 6 against Detroit. hitting a late field goal
Yeah.
to knock him down. Then, granted, 2015, all the I words, and he was our offense for a couple of years. Like you bring up the 2021 game, 66 yards off the freaking upright going in to everything in between. It does suck because he was more than the kicker to us. Most kickers don't have the personality he did, but I'm right there with this doesn't make sense. And I don't want to know
S-
understand. I don't want to know why.
Yeah, exactly. Dre says here is sad because all this stuff aside, Tucker is probably a Mount Rushmore guy for the Ravens. Would you agree with that? Like pre allegations and everything like that. Would you say that Justin Tucker is a Mount Rushmore Raven?
I don't want to get in the Mount Rushmore debates, but if we're talking like he's up, I think he's up there for me. If we're talking like strictly like how good you are in your position of all time, I mean obviously Ray, Ed, you can put Yonda or
Yeah.
Ogden and maybe Tucker. Obviously,
Yeah.
I would love to have Lamar up there. I need that trophy, but
I need the ring. I
impact,
need the yeah.
yeah,
Would you put Flacco up there?
I
Because
wouldn't.
like no?
I
Oh
love me.
yeah,
I
because
love
you
Joe,
have
but I
yeah.
wouldn't. I love him, but I wouldn't.
It's just so tough to not put him up there because the playoff performances that this man had in the
Yeah,
hardest of AFC eras, Ben Roethlisberger, Peyton Manning, Andrew Luck at the time, and then we all know Tom Brady. You know what I'm saying? Like beating all of those guys, and then in the Super Bowl, obviously beating Colin Kaepernick. What was it? 11 touchdowns, no interceptions in that postseason run. One of the greatest postseason runs that the NFL has ever seen by an NFL quarterback. Like it's hard for me and for the Ravens to be such a young team, about 30 years old, about 3 decades old, right? And two Super Bowls. One of those Super Bowls came off literally the sole back of defense. I'm not going to get Trent Dilfer that credit, right? But the other Super Bowl came from a guy who literally, against all odds, because we were underdogs in a lot of those games against all odds, got it done. You know what I mean? Like I think I would have to put Joseph Vincent Flacco, as you like to call him. I would like to put him on that Mount Rushmore, man. I mean, like you said, Ed, Ray. I could throw Marshall in there, but like at the same time, we're talking about positional value. I probably would put Ogden over him, and then at the end I'll probably go Joe. I'll probably go Joe, and that's only until Lamar gets his ring because Lamar has had so much regular season success. Once he does get that ring, he automatically replaces Flacco for me.
it's funny you say that. I put Yonda over Ogden. I think because Yonda played like every position on the line. Um, but I mean, I can't like if I had my all second Mount Rushmore, he'd be first one on there. This is a great like this will
Mm,
be a great debate to have. I mean, the fact that we can have this debate and we're literally like I said, we're a young franchise. We're 3 decades in, and we're talking about what guys that have played for us are arguably top in their position of all time. Like we have been very blessed to say that Suggs.
yeah,
Where's he at?
yeah.
Where's defensive
Suggs.
player of the
I
year?
mean, there's a lot of guys. There's a lot of guys who you can make cases for to either be on the first team, all Mount Rushmore, whatever you want to call it, or the second team. You know, Jamal Lewis comes to mind. You know what I mean? Like, there's a lot of guys and there's some sleepers down there. There's some
Matt
sleepers down there. I would love to have this
Stover.
conversation one day. Stover, yeah, Stover's in there too. Um, I go all the way back, man. I'm thinking of like some deep names,
I'll tell you
like
this
Chris
right now.
McAllister. I know he's not on like the top, the top, but like that guy was consistent for us. What? Go
You
ahead.
give you give Todd Heap a ring, and you're having some very uncomfortable conversations. I'm just saying that right now. He was a dog.
Yeah,
He was
but he was the truth. He was the truth. But Pitt unfortunately got the ring over him. So it's
yeah.
like, but Pitt wasn't as he wasn't as Todd. He was just like I don't know. He just wasn't as well rounded. And then now you've got Mark Andrews, where if he could just perform in the playoffs and he got a ring by now, then he would be the go ahead in.
Oh my gosh.
Man, it's quite
I
the
tell you
conversation. It's quite the
this. I
conversation.
mean, if I'm talking potential right now, if who I could see myself maybe getting on there with the way they start their career off, number 14. If he keeps up this play, I mean,
Ooh,
not saying I'm putting
yeah,
him over Ed, but he can definitely be on the ranks up there. Just he gets better every year. That's why I'm like I want to get him locked down on a contract because how good, and I don't think he's even tapped his potential yet.
Yeah, the only reason why it would be hard for Kyle Hamilton to Ed Reed, in terms of like best Ravens safeties, the only reason why it would be hard is because Ed Reed had the ability to score touchdowns
Yep.
with
Yep.
turnovers. Kyle Hamilton, he's done that, but he's not that same type of safety.
No.
He's the type of safety who you can put all over the field. You can damn near play him as a solid linebacker, right? Ed Reed was a guy who was fooling guys like Peyton Manning, Tom Brady on the deep half of the field, and flipping his hips and getting all the way from one side of the field to the other, picking the ball off, and then oh by the way, after that I'm taking it for six. Kyle Hamilton, as much as I love him, I don't think that's his bag, and
No.
unfortunately, when you are not scoring six in the league, you're not going to be looked at as as the next guy, as the same as the next guy who is scoring six. Like that's the thing. That's the thing. So I get what you're saying there.
Yeah.
Kyle Hamilton is still very young in his career, and however, I think Kyle Hamilton's career will be kind of be dictated by how his defensive coordinator chooses to use him. You know what
That's
I
a good way
mean?
to put it.
Like, because they like to put him all over the field. They're kind of indecisive about it, and I think we'll see some of that this year, even with Malachi Starks, even with our newest additions in our secondary as well. Awuzie, we've got still Nate Wiggins in year two, things like that. I still think that they'll probably move Kyle Hamilton around, so they won't let him be kind of like the master of one trade, but he'll be the jack of all trades, right? And I think the argument for a long time with a lot of people is like having that master of one trade is better than being a jack of all trades. You know what I'm saying? Like that's kind of what we're looking at here. But I see what you're saying though. I do get
Yeah.
your point about Hamilton.
Yeah, I mean, to me, Ed is probably one of the best safeties of all time. Like, just watching him was just like, as a football fan and stuff. Like, was he about to lateral behind me and fumble it? Now, I'll say this right now. I think there's a current Ring of Honor player on the defense. I think it's number 44, Marlon Humphrey. Like when you sit back and think about his career, it's pretty impressive how good he's been. I think he's had probably maybe one year. But outside of that, I look back last
Yeah,
year, like how good he was, and he added interceptions to his game. That was like the last part. I kind of underrate him. I'll be honest. I think I underrate Marlon Humphrey as a cornerback. Because what he was doing these past couple of years, past two, really impressive. So just trying to give some appreciation to the guys on the team because I think this is his final year with us, or we're going into it. So
yeah,
team has a decision to make, but for his whole career, he's been pretty damn reliable as a cornerback.
yeah. He has a big shout out to number 44. Another jersey that I personally own because that's my guy. Especially the peanut punch era. That was my
Mm,
favorite era of all time. I think my favorite strip from Marlon Humphrey was the one on new AFC North Steelers receiver DK Metcalf
mm.
all those years ago in Seattle that to really ice the game in a lot of ways. That one was huge for me. So yeah, I think that he's definitely well on his way to the Ring of Honor of Ravens. But speaking of the AFC North, let's go ahead and shift gears here,
Let's talk
right? Because
about
we've
it.
been talking
Oh
about the
man,
Ravens
Woo!
for a minute now, right? So
Please.
let's talk about the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Mm.
The Pittsburgh Steelers earlier this week decided to trade number one wide receiver, which to a lot of people, I didn't know, is unbeknownst to me, is debatable because a lot of people think that DK Metcalf is clearly a better wide receiver than George Pickens. I don't think so. I just think that DK Metcalf is much more of a physical specimen, who also just happens to play the wide receiver position. But who's a pure receiver? Give me George Pickens. Give me George Pickens. But they traded George Pickens to the Cowboys. The Steelers did for a third round pick and another. I think it was a late round pick swap or something like that. When I saw this move go down, I was laying in bed. I think Adam Schefter tweeted it early in the morning. It was like an early news break or something like that. And I was like, well, why is it like I'm rubbing the dang salt out my eyes, and I'm like, bro, George Pickens is not in the AFC anymore. It's just DK Metcalf, and oh, they only got a third round pick for it. I, that's a win. That is a win for the Ravens. Made a video about it, and Alex, after I say this, I'm gonna swing it to you and see your thoughts about it. But I made a video about this, and I said, like, are the Steelers trying to tank right now? Because you just gave away you being such a run on first down, run on second down, pass on third down type team, you just gave away your other third down threat, right? So now on third down, where are we all looking since George Pickens isn't there? DK Metcalf. You know what I'm saying? And this is the same reason why the Cowboys wanted George Pickens, because they knew on third down, everybody knows we're throwing a CD Lamb. So now you have to defend both guys, and the Steelers lost that. And that was the only thing. When I say the only thing, I say literally the only thing that at least mainstream media thinks the Steelers has going for them, right? Because if you ask a Steelers fan, they'll say, "Oh, well, Roman Wilson is going to take a big step, or where Caleb Johnson is a really good running back, so we'll see." But like, look, unproven guys, we can't really. That's like me saying that, oh yeah, LaJohntay Wester is definitely going to start for us this season and he's going to be a dog. Or Tez Walker is going to score 5 or 6 touchdowns. Like, no, like that, it's not going to happen. So Alex, I want to get your thoughts on the Steelers trading George Pickens to the Cowboys. Did you like it, love it, or hate it? I have a feeling I know what you're going to say about it, but let me know, brother.
I loved it. And you bring up the whole it's like saying Tez Walker, like LaJohntay West. We had that with Prochet Duvernay. We did that, all right. But when we did it with Bateman, man, just slack I got. I'll never forget. I made a video after the first 4 games of Bateman. Oh, why are you hyping this guy up? He sucks. He's gonna be injured. Difference between a first round pick and a fifth or a sixth round pick because the tools are there for Bateman. Other guys maybe not so much. But is it a controversial take? And I am a huge Dick and Zacharias Metcalf stan. But when I sit back and I
Yes.
look at who the Steelers have had next to George Pickens and who the Kalen had next to him in Seattle, there is a difference. There is a huge difference. JSN and
Yeah.
Lockett next to you compared to who did Pickens have last year? Brent Skoranek?
Yeah. Ben Skoranek. And I think,
Roman
was
Wilson
Calvin
was hurt.
Austin hurt last year?
Austin was dealing with soft tissue.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
he was getting, I mean, the touchdown he scored against us, Wiggins and Ardarius were doubling him, ran into each other, and he caught it for a touchdown. And that happened right in front of me. I won't forget that. Or it was a big catch. I don't
Yeah.
understand it. And I'm going to put it like this. Context is important. I know he had 2 year or 3 years left on his contract. The Baltimore Ravens got more for Hayden Hurst than the Steelers did for George Pickens. We got a second round pick for Hayden
Ooh.
Hurst. They got a
Ooh, say
third
that
round
again.
pick.
Say that again.
The Ravens got more for Hayden Hurst than the Steelers did for George Pickens. I'll leave it at that.
Mm, that stings. That's got to sting if you are a Pittsburgh Steelers fan. Again, man, I really don't know what the plan is for the Pittsburgh Steelers this season, man. I mean, because like this move does not make you any more competitive, especially in a division where your big rival, the Ravens, just improved their secondary. And not only did they improve their secondary, they improved their pass rush as well. So why would you? And oh, by the way, you don't have a solid QB situation, right? You drafted Will Howard, you got rid of Russell Wilson, you offloaded Justin Fields, right? Who is going to start at quarterback? I don't even know if Aaron Rodgers wants to come anymore. I know DK is Aaron Rodgers' guy, so maybe he still will. Maybe. But if he doesn't, and hell, even if he does, right? I mean, we saw what Aaron Rodgers had to offer last year in New York. Wasn't much. Wasn't much. You know what I'm saying? So I'm kind of like flummoxed really by the plan of the Pittsburgh Steelers. Like, what is the course of action going forward? Is it a tank year? Then you go to next year's draft, which is supposed to be a much better quarterback draft. So let's say Will Howard, he starts for a couple of games or whatnot. He's just looking like he's not it. Then you're just gonna tank the season and risk Mike Tomlin's perfect, over 500 record. I don't think so. I don't think so. Are you going to rely on TJ Watt to close 75% of your games this season? I don't think so. A disgruntled TJ Watt at that, right? Who sees all these other edge rushers in the league getting paid top dollar, right? While he slips down the board of highest paid edge rushers. I don't
Mm.
think so. So if I'm Omar Khan, if I'm Mike Tomlin, I'm kind of looking in the mirror like, hey, like, are we really serious this season? Are we really serious? I'll leave it at that.
I'm gonna put it like this, and obviously, real fan like not to say fake fans, but let's say you are a Pittsburgh Steelers season ticket holder, and they say, "Hey, you want to pay a little bit more to upgrade your seat, however much?" Are you gonna want to upgrade your seat? Are you gonna be going to every single Steelers game?
Right.
And that's
Yeah.
what you got to think about. I mean, and this is not me speaking as a Ravens fan because I'll be honest, I dislike the Steelers, but I dislike the Bengals a lot more than the Steelers. I'll tell you that right now. Some like I want the Ravens Steeler rivalry to be great again because football was better that way. Like last year, that Week 16 game, that was a very fun game to watch. It was back and forth, and then that Ardarius hit. Like I'm like, this is Ravens Steeler football. I think that rivalry is gone now. I mean, they might sneak a Devil Magic win against us in Pittsburgh, but when we're picking, I'm picking us to beat them twice this year. I'll say that right now. Um, well, if we lose,
Yeah.
probably on some like that stupid stuff, but they just don't scare me. Defensively, cornerbacks they don't scare me. Linebacker, I know what they got there, and defensive line they upgraded there, but they drafted to stop Derrick Henry. Every AFC North team took a defensive lineman with their first round pick because they are scared
Yeah.
of a 31-year-old running back, 32-year-old running back. Think about that. Like that is, I just
Yeah.
I'm speechless. I'm speechless.
Yeah, man. And again, I don't know if the Steelers end up going over 500 this season, and maybe missing the playoffs or getting bounced out of the first round, just like the past couple of seasons. It would be truly comical to me. And I want to say this because during the Hard Knocks series, the HBO Hard Knocks series, I gave a lot of credit to head coach Mike Tomlin. And I still want to say, I still think Mike Tomlin is a great head coach. And I think that the main reasons why Mike Tomlin decided to move on from George Pickens sooner rather than later was because he already experienced a situation like this with another wide receiver that the Steelers had prior roster. Most of you guys know him as a Antonio Brown. That is, I think that this might be because it makes no sense to us as fans, right? Like,
Yeah.
why would you get rid of one of your best players? But like, he's in a contract year. You're gonna have to pay him next year, and if you pay him, you're stuck with that quote unquote headache, right? Which a lot of people quoted him to be. You're stuck with that headache for another what 2 3 years. So I think Tomlin, and in this mature stage of his career with the Pittsburgh Steelers, I think he said, you know what, I'm not going through this again. I'm not going to be giving a post game speech with my guys on IG Live. You know what I mean? Talking ish about this and that and the third. I'm gonna get out ahead of this. I'm gonna get rid of this guy. We got DK Metcalf. We really believe that Roman Will is gonna step up. Whoever else is gonna step up, and they're gonna go from there. Um, with that being said, again, I think that the Steelers do go over 500, but I think that they suffer a very similar fate that they did last season. And the only way that I see them going over 500 is if they, some quarterback on their roster ends up stepping up and goes on like a pretty decent streak before he falls off. I would cap them at I'd cap them at about 9 wins, to be honest with you.
Yep.
I cap them at about 9 wins for sure.
And
Um,
well, that streak,
okay,
real quick, that streak you're talking about rusted that last year until we
yeah.
came against I think us. Like they went in on like a four or
Yeah.
5 game losing streak, and
And say that's what I'm talking about. Like they need like somebody like a Russ to get them on a little streak like that. Like I don't know if Will Howard or who are the other rostered quarterbacks that they have right now.
Mason Rudolph.
Right. I mean, we saw that years ago. Like
Yeah.
okay. All right. Let's go ahead and move on here. As with another super chat donation that we didn't get to before. Thank you so much, brother. Dropping the 2 piece in the chat. That's two McChickens. If you know Asmodeus, man, we appreciate you for making it here on this episode 309 of PRP. Says this controversial, but Kyle Hamilton is like Troy Polamalu, and I
Seeing the
can see that.
comparisons.
I can see that. About to say that's a good comparison. And I rate Ed Reed above Troy Polamalu. Bias aside, in all-time safeties, I rate Ed Reed above Troy
Yep.
Polamalu just because of his his instincts and don't get me wrong, Palomalo's instincts were on another level as well, but Ed Reed's instincts were literally fooling guys like Bill Belichick, Peyton Manning, and Tom Brady in real time,
Yep.
right? He was making it happen. So, and that's again, that kind of goes back to my point of why I think that it'll be hard for Kyle Hamilton to kind of eclipse Ed Reed's career accomplishments and things like that. So, yeah,
Yeah, I agree with you there. I mean, in your final game as a Raven, you get an interception in the Super Bowl, so it's kind of hard to top that. But man, I do agree, and I think that's why I take Ed. We look at Ed's stats. Catching that ball. I mean, you throw it over the middle more than 35, 40 yards. Number 20 is back there. You can't say that
yeah,
about Hamilton. He might be breaking it up. We saw more of that last year, but I think this year with that getting Starks, we'll see him more. In the box, roaming around, making tackles for losses, breaking up passes compared to what we saw last year. But either way, damn good ball player, and I just want us to extend him while we can.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Um, and it's funny because they picked up the 5th year option on Kyle Hamilton, but they did not pick the 5th year option for Tyler Linderbaum. And a lot of people, well, not a lot, but some Ravens fans kind of freaked out at that news. But we quickly realized, why the Ravens decided to do that. Because if they picked up the 5th year option on Tyler Linderbaum, they would overpay for him for a year, which would not make any sense cap wise, especially that Lamar Jackson is about to eat up $74 million of the cap next year if an extension is not put in place before that. Um, so in order to make more wiggle room for that extension, you're not going to pick up the 5th year option on both Tyler Linderbaum and Kyle Hamilton, and that just is what it is. It just is what it is. But it doesn't mean we're getting rid of Tyler Linderbaum. It will probably just tag him, and we'll take it from there.
Yeah,
So as Modia says, what if Starks becomes Reed Light? Can you imagine? Can you imagine? Like
you
Malachi Starks. Go ahead.
yeah. No, you heard what Malachi Stark said about who he wants to get a pick off of, right?
Josh motherfucking Allen. Yes, I heard that.
Yeah, that play like a Raven stuff. That's what I'm talking about. Like you saw who he lost to. You know that if we got a pick off of him, that's the difference in the playoffs. We need that. We need that
Yeah.
turnover. Thank you, Mr. Starks. Thank you.
Yeah, man. That's literally the only difference. It kind of reminds me of that play. Who was it who was guarding Keon Coleman up the sideline that ended up getting called for a penalty?
Trey White.
Stevens? Oh, that was Tre'Davious White. That's right. That's right. That's the kind of play that I imagine Malachi Starks going out of his frame and either making a play on the ball to knock it down or picking it off. And that really turning the tide in the game. I really do hope that Malachi Starks can make a play, like that, especially when it matters most. Hell, I hope all of our rookies that we plan on starting plays like that when it matters most, especially in the playoffs, because we do play the Bills in Buffalo this year. We do play the Chiefs in Kansas City. So there's gonna be some big games in the regular season, but just like you and just like everybody watching this stream right now, who are a Ravens fan, like we're not worried about the regular season. We just aren't. We weren't even worried about last year's regular season. I mean, we started off 0-2, but we kind of knew like, okay, this team is probably going to bounce back at some point. We were pissed off. We knew they would bounce back at some point. It's the regular season. Come on now. We make it all the way to the divisional round against the Bills, and same thing happened. So one of these guys has to step up in the postseason in January. That's really all it boils down to. But okay, let's go ahead and move on to our last topic of the show. This one's a little bit more kind of what it could have, should have, what could
Mm,
have been,
yeah.
But I found out earlier this week in a very random news cycle, right? Very random. Uh, Hall of Fame, soon Hall of Fame, tight end Robert Gronkowski famously played for the Patriots for all those years, won all those Super Bowls with Tom Brady and Bill Belichick, and was one of the catalysts on a lot of those teams. He was supposed to be a Raven. He was supposed to be a Raven, and it really it kind of all went through my head what could have been, like really what could have been if Rob Gronkowski became a Raven, if Joe Flacco would have had a Rob Gronkowski in his career. Don't want to take anything away from a Dennis Pitta, right? But Gronk, the way that he elevated Tom Brady's game in so many ways, and a lot of people don't talk about this, but yes, Tom Brady was very, very great at the game of football. But Robert Gronkowski made Tom Brady right even when he was wrong. He was one of those players. You know what I mean? Um, and just for like a lot of people thought he was just like a big dumb jock, but no, this guy understood football to a T. You know, and it was in the right places at the right times. And then, oh, by the way, he's too big, he's too strong, he's too powerful for you to bring him down. You know, but the story is what could have been. Rob Gronkowski revealed that the Ravens were going to select him in the 2010 NFL Draft. They had the 25th pick, traded back. Then they had the 40 pick number 43. But the Patriots jumped up one spot ahead of the Ravens, and they took Robert Gronkowski. Everything could have been completely different. So, what were your thoughts when you heard this, Alex?
I'm kind of sick right now because just thinking
That's a
about like
meme. I'm gonna clip that. That's hilarious.
um I sit here and I go back to the 2010 NFL draft. And yeah, like you said, we got Pitta. I'm gonna read you this draft. I mean, there are some, solid players in here. Sergio Kindle at 43. The pick afterward, we would have gotten Gronk. That's where I mean, Sergio Kindle fell down the stairs 3 games. Terrence Cody, Ed Dixon, Dennis Pitta, David Reed, Arthur Jones, Ramon Harewood. Adding Gronkowski there and maybe taking out Dixon. I mean, Pitta and Gronkowski would have been pretty sick. I'll tell you that
Oh,
right now. Especially with Joe Flacco. Joseph Vincent Flacco. Throwing that
I think it would have
freaking.
been better than Gronk and Aaron Hernandez.
Oof.
That's just me.
I
That's
mean,
just
one
me.
would have played. I mean, maybe Pitta wouldn't have taken so many hits. It wouldn't have to be the tight end
Hey,
one. I mean, that's
yeah,
just, the beauty of the woulda, coulda, shoulda. But man, Rob Gronkowski as a Raven would have really been cool. But I'll be honest, he fit like the New England vibe back then. He fit the
yeah,
douche
he did.
jock, like, get one over on the refs. Like he fit their style. But imagining him, with Flacco and that team, that would have been sick. Like so it would have been Anquan, Torrey, Jacoby, Pitta, Gronkowski, Ray Rice. That's disgusting.
Mm,
That's disgusting.
yeah, unstoppable. Would have been at least maybe another Super Bowl or two. Honestly, if we're being honest, I mean, because there were a lot of near misses for the Ravens back in those, early 2010s as well. So yeah, I don't think that the Patriots come back two possessions down twice if we have Robert Gronkowski. I just don't. A lot of those third downs would have been converted, and we'd have put on their necks. So that's just me. That's just me. But it was a cool story to kind of hear Gronk say that, and to think that our front office was in their mind at the time. That's where their heads were at. It kind of gives you solace, right? They have right guy. They have the right guys on the board. It gives me comfort for this upcoming draft class. It always kind of has for tight ends. So it's just kind of the history of tight ends in the Ravens. They know how to draft tight ends, how to develop them. But again, man, and not to go back to the draft talk too much, but I've been quoted multiple times on this very show saying the past 7 years, the past 8 years, basically the Lamar Jackson era, the Ravens have averaged 9 draft picks per season, per offseason, that is. And they've hit on an average of two of those nine, right? So about 22% of the draft picks that they pick, they hit. And again, we talked about Malachi Starks. We talked about Mike Green when we drafted him. Those two pieces, and we're going to kind of put a bow on this episode with this, and I want to get your thoughts. But those two pieces right there, I think could really, especially with them both being defensive pieces, and think of all the other defensive stars that are already on that roster. I mean, you've got a Roquan Smith, you've got a Marlon Humphrey, you've got a Namdi Matabike, you've got a Travis Jones who performed really, really well last year, actually better than Namdi Matabike according to PFF, depending on how you feel about them. You know what I mean? You got an ascending star in Nate Wiggins. You got what could be an ascending star in Adafe Owe, who just had 10 sacks. KVN, Kyle Van Noy, just had another great season, one of his best seasons of his career. So you add two potential stars to that already dominant, basically demon time starting lineup. I think the sky is really the limit. The only question is, can they perform in January? That's really it. And the defense has already done that, but I think that the defense is to really kind of step up and break the back of these opponents in the playoffs in the postseason. I think that they haven't been doing that. It's been more so like bend, but don't break. But like the defense needs to break the offense. That's kind of the only difference. Maybe these two guys help, maybe they don't. But what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, you look at Mike Green, you know the talent's there. Like that's what we've been yearning for. The guy fully made, ready to go. But then you have Starks, where it's like you can let Hamilton be disruptive, and maybe we saw Geno Stone get all those picks when we let safety like him just sit there deep. So hoping he has those
Talk about it. Yeah.
instincts to be right place, right time. Not comparing the two by any means. Please don't take it that way. It's just them being in the right spot to pick off those balls. That's really all you need back there. Um, so that I'm looking forward to, but very, very, very excited for the season. And like Sam set up here, I think he said 14-3. We talked about this. Yeah, I mean, we don't care what we get in the playoffs. That's when we're gonna start worrying about the games. But I do want us to get one over on the Bills and the Chiefs, honestly. But you got to win the big ones in the playoffs. And that's really what it's all about. So hopefully we can see that, and hopefully the best talent plays and not the favorites. That's a whole nother conversation for a whole nother episode.
Yeah, yeah, and I think that you brought up a really good point. Geno Stone being able to kind of roam free and get all those picks, especially in the first half of that season. Um, can you imagine what wonders Kyle Hamilton playing in the box is going to do for a rookie Malachi Starks? It really kind of does open up everything for him as a rookie. And if you can imagine him in the first 5 games, if he gets even one interception, what that will do to his confidence for the rest of the season. You know what I mean? Like one interception, a couple PBUs, whatever. Like I think the sky is really the limit for him. The sky is really the limit. There's a reason why we drafted him first. Um, you know, SEC guy. Like I think that this is going to be a very, very one of those two guys, either Malachi Starks or Mike Green. I think it's very possible in a couple of years we're talking about them on the same level we talk about like a Hamilton. You
Mm.
know, um, that's what I think. That's what I think. But all right, we're gonna go ahead and leave it there for this episode 309 of PRP. We really do hope you guys enjoyed it. Listen, if you guys are first time listeners, viewers, whatever you do, make sure you subscribe to the channel. Also, like the video. It helps us out a ton, especially in the off season, guys. You guys already know. Like the video, subscribe to the channel. Both of those things are absolutely free. If you do want to join our membership, you can as well. Shows a little bit extra support for us. We'd appreciate that. Let me see. To end this off, we got the Don in here. The Don, what's going on? One of our
But Don,
members. Appreciate you, man. Says, do we get Clowney back on the phone? EDC. He was just released by the Panthers, I think earlier today or yesterday. That $4 million from Tucker coming in post June 1. I'm sure there's a little bit more money left too. Last thoughts on what do you think about Clowney?
pick up the phone, baby. I know you're home. Clowney,
Hey,
Judon, or Zadarius. I'll take one of those three. Uh, let Zach Ward do what he wants to do with that team. I would love to have one more edge guy, one more nose tackle we've talked about, and let's go and get
yes,
ourselves a bowl while we're at it.
yeah, yeah, definitely got to bring in a nose tackle, but Clowney would not hurt. So with that being said, again, my name is Sutton Def. That is simply AS10. You can follow us on pretty much all socials at those handles. You'll find us pretty much anywhere. Just Google. You know what I'm saying? If you go on Instagram and type in at the Purple Rain Podcast, you'll find us on Instagram as well. Make sure you follow us on there too. And yeah, our sponsor, Manscaped. Sponsor Manscaped, 20% off anything you want on that website with our code PRP. So again, we love you guys. Appreciate you for having us back. We'll be back in the future. And with that being said, I'm going to let my guy Alex take us out.
Thank you for coming through episode 309 of the Purple Rain Podcast. We love you. We appreciate you. And like the Don says here, stay freaking positive and test freaking negative.
Yes, yes. And never, ever forget, even on the rainiest days, to call God. Episode 309, the PRP. We're going to catch you guys in the next.